Welcome to Pride in Sport series, where we celebrate our athletes and teams in the sport they compete in. Together, eliminating stigma in sport and inspiring the younger generation to live their dream regardless of who they love. I'm Vitality Coach Andrew, and welcome to our first series episode in this year. Today's guest, through hard work and passion, is a two-time Paralympian in swimming and triathlon, world and European medalist, British champion and top 10 finisher in Rio Paralympic Games 2016. He also went on to represent Great Britain at the highest level for 15 years. Please welcome David Hill. David, are you there?
I'm here, Andrew. Hiya.
Fab. I'm pretty sure I didn't do justice. You've got loads of things that you've achieved, but I'm hoping that's a good enough introduction.
Oh, you absolutely did. No, you flattered me. Thank you so much.
Just before we go any further, I'm going to say to everyone, if you've got a question that you want to ask David, there's a quick Q&A box on the side there. So get your questions in. We've got some pre-questions to be answered at the end, but during it, if there's anything you want to know, let us know. But before we go any further, I don't know if anyone's out there watches Channel 4 or anything like that, but you may recognize David from a show that he was in last month, a few weeks ago, The Doghouse. So you've got a new member of the family, have you, David?
Like you say, you can just see her little paw there. Look. If I pan the camera around, she's there entertaining herself with her ball, showing up on the camera. Dogs are literally like their owners. She's my absolute sweetheart, bless her. She has changed my life, and I tell you, that show to be a part of was just amazing. I can't believe how well Wood Green, the animal charity, did with kind of matching me based on my personality, my lifestyle, with my dream dog, basically. So yeah. And
she goes paddleboarding with you?
She does everything with me. I've literally turned it into like the biggest adventure puppy ever. So yeah, she's lost a fair bit of weight. She now loves walking, loves the rain, gets involved in everything I do, basically. She's just happy if she's by my side.
Brilliant. Now, throughout this chat, what we're going to just let everyone know, we're going to be talking about just highs and lows of careers, just making it an inspiration for people that want to do something with their life or compete in sport. And just, I think the key point is just being true to yourself. So let's go back to your younger years when you were growing up. Your mum and dad brought you up for the saying, "There's no such thing as can't," which I guess made you helped you become more successful in what you're doing. Was that the main ambition to your goal, to wanting to get yourself competing, or just to try and do as much as you can?
I think if we are going to go right back to the beginning, so it's worth explaining that I was born missing my left arm below the elbow. So I've got this is my elbow joint and this is my little left forearm. And that's very much where that motto came from. It wasn't with kind of like sport or competing in mind. It was very much that my parents drilled into me that, there was no such word as can't. They were willing for me to still, I guess, be independent.
Yeah.
And looking back now, it must have been really tough for them because they didn't really know the one-handed solutions in life. When I was a baby, they would just watch me play and I'd be there like trying to build my Lego towers and all the rest of it. And they'd clearly witness me getting really frustrated and not be able to kind of do things properly or connect blocks or just play with my toys. And it's not like they can come over and play for me. They very much had to kind of watch me and allow me to discover what the answer is and come up with the solutions myself. But what they did do is they were always on the sidelines there, just kind of giving me the encouragement to sort of, battle through these frustrations and try and find a way myself. And that's where that motto kind of came from. Okay. And then I guess once I kind of then started to do sports, which, they didn't shy away from, and, my sister swam and they wanted me to swim equally. They weren't going to think, oh, well, we better not take David swimming because he might not be able to do it, but we'll still continue that pathway with my sister. It was very much that regardless of my ability, and that's very much how it was framed in the household, regardless of my ability, they were still passionate that I had to go at everything. And there was no such word as can't.
So is the rivalry between you and your sister? did that like push you even more? Was there like a competition there to like beat her? Or was there more determination, or was it equal? Was it fine?
I think that came from, so I've actually got them here, which I'm going to show you because I'm so proud of these. So these are my swimming badges that I
Okay.
started to collect from like 3 years old. So this one up here, my bright red shiny 5 meter badge, and I was so like proud to get that badge. And even my parents were prouder of me because I remember they stitched it onto the back of my swimming trunks. So imagine
Oh.
me like as a 3-year-old walking around poolside, absolutely beaming, really proud that I swam 5 meters in a straight line. And so
Oh.
I kind of really recognised looking back that at the time that gave me, an increase in motivation, an increase in confidence. And I guess I kind of set a little goal in my mind to think that was really cool. I want to do it again. Let's go bigger and better. And I set that goal of getting my 10-meter badge. And then, a few months later, that happened. And the same sort of thing happened again, an increase in confidence, an increase in motivation. And I set myself another goal. And so I just worked my way through those until I was about 8 or 9 years old. And I got my 1,000-meter badge. And then it was kind of like, well, what's next? And I kind of like cast eyes on my sister thinking, well, I've got to beat you now. So she's got a slightly different way to how she tells the story. But essentially, we had some good competitions together. And then once I beat her, I decided to sort of, take on the rest of my class at school and the rest of my year group, and then eventually kind of go on to represent my county. So it all started really, really small. And I was never thinking kind of too far ahead too early.
Yeah.
It was always about, celebrating all those small achievements. And I really recognize that in my life now, because although I'm a retired athlete, I've still got personal goals and maybe financial goals, lots of different areas of my life. And it's really important to still celebrate like all those little things that we achieve day in, day out, because again, that's what gives me the confidence and the motivation and the, that just that feel good factor, that dopamine release and whatever else is going on in our bodies to then give us that energy just to keep on going and not think too far ahead.
Perfectly. For anyone that has a goal in mind, whatever, it's those small steps that we take that just get bigger and better and better, and we get further and further. So rather than if you're starting out running, for example, you don't think about, I'm going to do the marathon. It's the first lamppost you run to, it's the second one. So yeah, for anyone that wants to achieve anything in life, it's those baby steps, it's those badges, these are the rewards that you need to focus on that gets you going and keeps you motivated. So I can completely relate to that. I'm going to go fast forward now a little bit to when you're 15. When I was 15, dare I say it, my, I guess, goal in life was to make sure that I got tickets to see the Spice Girls. But the you're competing at the 2004 Athens Paralympic Games. So that must have been, did you ever think that you would reach that? At 15 as well. What the pressure? How did you handle that?
I mean, even looking back now, when you describe that, I just kind of think, that couldn't have been me, 15 years of age competing in the Paralympic Games, being the youngest British athlete out of not only just the swimming, but out of all the sports. That's crazy. And I guess, if I was going to look back then, it's just like, my gosh, if I just believed in myself a little bit better or a little bit more around that time, or just generally throughout my whole career, actually, how much of a better athlete would I have been if I'd have just believed in myself? Like, I was clearly good enough at that time. I absolutely swam my socks off to compete in those Paralympic Games, and it was absolutely incredible, like the time of my life. But I didn't get there alone. I had a massive support team around me, and that's ultimately how I dealt with kind of, like, I guess, the pressure at the time as well. I was really fortunate from 12 years old to go to a boarding school. It's called Mount Kelly in Tavistock. And that was really the making of me. I had a coach there that just took me under his wing. And everything he told me to do, I just did it because he'd been there, done it before himself. And without kind of him and that just kind of world-class attitude and being surrounded by like-minded people, I wouldn't have made it there without all those guys.
Gosh. I mean, just even worried about trying to do your schooling and exams, and let alone competing in such a young age. Inspiring, totally inspiring. Okay, I'm going to move on to possibly a little bit of a low point in your career. if you're happy to talk about it. We're talking about London 2012. Now, everyone seems to think that it was such a highlight for everyone. London 2012 has a lot of positivity stories around it. It's just really sad about your situation. Do you want to go through about what the build up to 2012 and what happened and how it affected you physically and mentally?
Yeah, I'm really happy to, because if anything, I think doing things like this still forms part of my therapy, if you like. Just actually reliving this, sharing it, talking about it. It helps me just process a little bit more as well. So as we described there, an absolute, euphoria off the back of 2004, a little bit like my swimming badges. I kind of like set the next goal. I had Beijing 2008 in my mind. And I worked my absolute socks off for 4 years, just trying to do everything right. And with sport, there's just no guarantees. And I guess, this is a true reflection of life as well, isn't it? And essentially in 2008, I have to put my hands up and just say I wasn't good enough to compete for the team again. I missed the qualifying time by 0.2 of a second. Which on the face of it kind of doesn't seem very fair. You just think, well, that's just such a small margin. Can I not just go anyway?
Yeah.
But in sport, the sport is because cutthroat as that, and I just have to respect that is the rules. That was the time that I had to meet, and I simply wasn't good enough. So, bit of a blow. And it took me a little while to just kind of reflect and just think, what do I really want? And I was watching those Paralympic Games happen in Beijing 2008, kind of like sat at home watching the Paralympic Games happen, not being a part of them. And it really made me actually just kind of not prove people wrong, but actually prove people right, that I should have been there.
Okay.
And so I was able to, in time, with a lot of support as well, turn that negative energy into something really quite positive to then drive me forward. And that was also made a little bit easier and fueled by the fact that 4 years after Beijing, we were therefore then looking at 2012, which was in London. And I just thought, you know what? I even said this on the VT for the Doghouse. What British athlete was not going to be motivated by competing on home soil?
Yeah.
I just, Britain loves a comeback kid, right? They love a trier. And I just thought, this is going to make an amazing story. Competing in 2004, not making it in Beijing, coming back and showing the world what I'm made of in 2012. It didn't pan out quite that way. 2012 was absolutely the low point of my career, if not, I guess, just the hardest thing I've been through to date. I trained as hard as I could yet again between 2008 and 2012. And I guess I have to respect that I controlled the controllables. I ate all the right foods. My work ethic was there. I communicated well with my coach. I worked really hard in the gym. I went to bed on time. I was thinking about my screen time. All these factors that actually contribute to our well-being and then overall performance as an athlete, I did. But what I couldn't control was my appendix, an appendicitis, which meant, right before the games, I was effectively lying in hospital. There's quite a lengthy story to this. I think even on the show, I went into a bit more detail to say that, I basically just hid in my room because I know full well if I had that operation, it meant that I couldn't compete. So I just went in complete denial. The fact that I was just like, even though I wasn't well enough to compete without the operation, having the operation meant I also couldn't compete, and it was just a really traumatic time.
Yeah. I'm not going to dwell on it one of that, but the disappointment and I think that'd be absolutely unimaginable. And to try and get through this, knowing that it was such a big event on home ground, must have been so difficult. So you didn't give up though. You once that passed, whatever, you decided to stop swimming. You said that you kind of put your swimming trunks up, but you felt like that you didn't want. There was something else in there that wanted to compete, or something that wasn't quite finished. So you went on to triathlons at that point then. Excellent.
That's right.
And the triathlon. So how much of a difference was that? I mean, did you do it as a sport before, or was it completely brand new? You want to try something completely different?
So I guess this sort of came about because, you know, yet again in 2012, I kind of wasn't able to show the world and unlock my like true potential and do a performance that actually I felt justified the amount of training that I put in, and the effort that my team around me put in as well. So I kind of felt as though I had 8 years worth of training from that success in 2004 up to 2012 that I kind of didn't have anything to show for it. And so I still had this kind of like energy in me that I guess needed some sort of avenue and outlet. And it was at that point I then started athlete mentoring, which is still a world I work in today. And I guess there's a lot of pressure. Sometimes I guess I feel when I'm doing this role to actually look like an athlete still when I'm mentoring people, because I guess they kind of just don't really believe your messages. They don't seem very authentic when you're being like, yes, exercise is good for you, and I'm rocking up being like, you know, a 50-stone house. So I understandably needed physically a bit of time off after that, after the events around 2012. I mean, it got a little bit more complicated and a bit more traumatic. Like the day that I was supposed to race in 2012, I was actually there in London volunteering as a games maker. For some reason, I thought if I can't be there as an athlete, I'll still go to the games and kind of give back, which was the most silly idea I've ever had ever. And while I was there, I had a phone call from my parents, because my parents went on holiday, because again, they couldn't really deal with the fact that London was on TV and it was all happening in the country, because they were equally as hurt. You know, they were part of the journey. So they took themselves on holiday. And I had a phone call from them to let me know that my nan had passed away that day. And so it was just a double whammy. Me being in London, watching the race that I should have been a part of, and then get the news of a family bereavement as well. Like, I think I just went into shock for a long, long time. So I had to have mentally and physically a fair bit of time off after that. And it was around 2013, early 2013, that I thought, you know what, I still need to exercise, because I appreciate what exercise does for me. And I'm doing this role as a bit of a role model and an athlete mentor and an inspirational figure. And I want to keep fit. You know, I appreciate the benefits of exercise. It makes me feel good. It gives me my focus. It makes me determined. It makes me happy. You know, if I've ever got a day now where I just feel a bit groggy and I feel a bit demotivated, I'll go for a run. You know, I'll feel better as a result of doing exercise. That actually then gives me motivation. So early 2013, I was doing a couple of swim sessions, and it kind of felt like a bit of a busman's holiday, just get back into the pool. And I was a bit demotivated, because I was a bit like, well, I haven't got a race to aim for. So why am I training? And it took me a while in my mind to really kind of reframe training and exercise and the difference between them. So I decided to kind of mix it up a little bit, and I bought a pair of running trainers. I bought myself a bike, had a gym membership. And rather kind of organically, triathlon was sort of born as a result of doing that. I remember a friend said to me, like, why don't you enter a triathlon? Like, you're doing some swimming, you're doing some cycling, and you've got some running shoes. So why don't you do a triathlon? And yeah, long story short, I remember doing that race and getting tapped on the shoulder and basically talent spotted again at the age of like 23. And someone said, you know what, if you actually got a decent bike, because it was clear that my bike was not decent, and some decent running shoes, then you could actually be quite good at that. So it was a very, very fast 3-year journey in triathlon, from, you know, just trying to keep fit, appreciating the benefits of exercise, to then again, someone believing in me, re-sparking that fire that had been building up for that whole 8-year journey. And then just the combination of then finding a new team, you know, being funded again, and in 3 years' time, reliving that Olympic dream, but in para-triathlon.
Fantastic. I mean, that is the proper turning something negative into a positive. And that is really, that is just pure magic of like how that's come about. And yeah, I guess for anyone that's listening, if you need to try these things, you never know who's watching. So, and you actually made your own prosthetic. Are you a joiner by trade? Yeah. Yes. So you made one of your prosthetics for triathlon. Is that correct?
So some of them mainly for woodwork, actually. Okay. So this came about because I knew full well I wasn't going to be an athlete my whole life. Like, I was always kind of warned a little bit that, you know, at any point injury can strike, or you can get your funding taken away, or you might not meet a competition, and like, this is our job. So I went off to college part-time, 2 days a week, around the time of about 2000, and so it was after that reality check of 2008 actually. So it's like 2009, 2010. Took myself off to college, got myself a trade, and I thought, you know, if sport doesn't work out, I've got something else to kind of fall back on. And it was, I needed basically, I needed a limb to be able to give my the college tutor at the time actually some confidence that I was able to complete that course, because even now I struggle to find like-minded people that have one hand and are interested in construction and woodwork. Like, it's quite complicated to be able to use a hammer and a chisel and only have one hand. Like, they don't work like chopsticks. You can't have them in the same hand. So yeah, I had to get involved basically, and then making my limb first to then be able to go on and make some furniture.
And talent, obviously inspiration and talent at the same time. And just want to show off your new prosthetic now, because before the old one was just like a normal beige kind of thing.
That's it. Yeah, so I absolutely love this one. So I've only just received this one. It's very rare I get a new limb. These days I'm not really growing out of them very much. So I actually recognise the last time I had a new limb was in 2009. So when I was applying for college. It's been a long time. And back then, the forearm piece that we see here, it very much did try and be skin color. It was beige. It was trying to blend in and everything that I'm basically not, you know. So when I went to the hospital a couple of months ago, when we started casting and making this one, they said that I could effectively choose my skin, and I was like, wow, like, okay, how outrageous can we get, you know? Because I want to be different. I really want it to make a statement, to be like, I'm not trying to blend in with everybody else. Everybody's difference in the whole world is the most beautiful thing that makes them, you know, amazing. And I just thought, how better to express, you know, your personality from the outside.
Being true to yourself.
Being absolutely unapologetically, authentically true to yourself, you know, and not trying to blend in, and being really proud to be different. And I do that through my disability, I do that through my sexuality, through my job, everything, you know. If that's what I'm passionate about, then absolutely run with it. Like, I recognise I spent a lot of my time at primary school almost trying to blend in and not stand out, to not get bullied, you know, just just not be the one that people look at. And then there came a point where, you know, when you're trying to, maybe like, you leave school or you leave university and you're trying to get jobs, and you're doing anything possible to then stand out and stand out from the crowd and be different from everybody else. And I just thought, well, yeah, this is exactly what this message should shout to everybody. Just be you.
And my favorite thing relating to this, my favorite story from you, is the being true to yourself when it comes to your performance in sport. And I want to talk about your European Championships. And I know that in the swimming world, you have to do your heats first and then you compete out if you're top 8. But talk us through this is the ultimate being true to yourself. So talk us through that day where you competed in the morning, and then how different it was in the afternoon.
Yeah, so this was 2009 European Championships. So in Reykjavik in Iceland, my family came out as well to watch me race. Again, like another real turning point in my career. So I remember swimming the heat in the morning, and it was a real tough race. Like, I felt heavy. Like, sometimes swimmers talk about how the water feels like swimming through treacle or custard. It just feels really thick and hard work. But I scraped through to the final, like literally like in last place. But I had the shot of the final that I was racing that night. And there was one big thing that was really on my mind, and I just felt as though I wasn't being true to myself. I wasn't being honest with those around me, maybe even my family. So I don't really talk about this much actually, and I guess this is quite helpful. My family were there, and I remember during the break time, I fumbled through some words to basically try and come out to my mum, because we talk about people having like a weight on their shoulders, and this is what I kind of really felt. And I just thought, if I'm going to give myself the best chance of racing and doing well in tonight's final, I need to get rid of this weight on my shoulder. I need to be honest. I need to talk to people. I need to communicate. I just need to feel as though I can be myself. And yeah, as I said, I was kind of like fumbling through some words, having a bit of a conversation to my mum. And I remember my dad was in the toilet, and I didn't want to do it in front of my dad and my mum at the same time. It was just easier for me, like one by one, just. And my mum just, I didn't really need to say much. She just kind of clearly knew, as this mum kind of intuition does. And she was just like, David, I know. It's fine. We love you. It's fine. And I was just like, oh, like that was it. Just alleviated this pressure. And I was like, what about dad? She's like, it's fine. I'll deal with your dad. One thing at a time. Just go out there, show the world who you are, and absolutely race your best performance. And my gosh, like that performance just flowed. You know, that water felt different. I was holding myself different. I was just able to just. It's amazing, isn't it? When we be ourselves, we're just able to be better. Like we're just and perform to our best. Like, can you relate to that?
Yeah, definitely being true to myself. And recently, I mean, I've got boring story compared to you, but I've always wanted to join a team of sports, and I've always been insecure about, am I going to be accepted for my ability to play this sport, or are they going to judge me for who I love, my sexuality? And it's taken me a long time, but I finally play rugby now, and no one cares, and it feels great. And again, I don't mean to throw it back at you, but you described it when you come out to your to people that you swim with, it was all a bit of an anticlimax. No one cared. So it goes to show that we build ourselves up. It's such a huge pressure. We beat ourselves up about it, and just by not being true to yourself. And then as soon as we are, what? No one cares. So it's like, oh, okay, so I've just created this like really bad feeling to myself. So no one actually cares. So it is so important being true to yourself, because it's a lot less scary than what you think. I think we overthink these things on our head. So.
And you say no one cares. Like actually, they're even happier for you. That's the thing. I was building up to something that it was going to be negative, but it wasn't. It was all positive. You know, everything was done out of love, and people just want to see you happy. Those that really care, that's all they want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and no one wants to see you unhappy. So it's just, I guess we carry this big boulder on our shoulders, like you said, thinking it's going to be a hindrance, it's going to be a bad thing, and it's not a big deal at all. So yeah, I love that story. That to me is the best example of being true to yourself, actually getting that weight off your shoulder. You can perform better. You just feel better within yourself. I love it. I know we're running out of time, whatever, but I still want to talk about what you currently do now, because the whole point of this is inspiring a younger generation to get more active and to be true to themselves. Hi, Pebbles. Oh, she's so cute. And you actually do this for a job now. You are a coach, and I know you idolize Dame Kelly Holmes, and now you actually work for a charity, which must be mind-blowing. That must feel amazing. So talk to us more about your coaching and what you do now then for the younger generation.
Yeah, working for Dame Kelly Holmes is a bit surreal now, I must say. You know, particularly after watching her compete in Athens 2004, being really inspired by her double goal performance, and then me competing a couple of weeks later, you know, in the same Olympic Village. It's a bit mind blowing. But for those that have watched The Doghouse, will know the reason why I got a dog is because I am a bit of a yes man. I am a bit of a workaholic, and she has brought an amazing balance to my life and allowed me to slow down a little bit and realize that actually success is not working 80 hours a week. You know, success is having a real balance of things that I love, quality family time, access to nature, you know, and some real simple things. So That said, there is still a lot of projects I get involved in. So I'm really, really lucky that I am the head coach of Excellent Swimming Club, which is the swimming club that I started at when I was 8 years old. So it's really nice to kind of do full circle and kind of give back to that community that I got so much from, which was very much the platform for me to then move from there to that boarding school that I described, which was really then, you know, the making of my Paralympic career. So I run one-to-one swimming lessons and private swimming lessons for all ages, and have a swimming school here in Exmouth at our swimming club. Work on numerous different young person programs with Dame Kelly Holmes. Lots of really rewarding initiatives with young people that face disadvantage. And again, it's just really showcasing just how powerful sport is, because we use sport as the vehicle to teach employable skills. There's a couple of other companies that I'm privileged to work for as well. So I've been working for Sports for Schools this morning, which is an initiative in primary schools, just getting kids engaged and passionate about an active and healthy lifestyle. I think it's really important from, you know, a grassroots level, just to get them engaged and feel the benefits of what PE can do. And I also work with the Youth Sport Trust as well, so similar kind of programs, again using sport, but at a secondary school level as well. So all that combined, like, came to a bit of a standstill during COVID times and lockdown, so I did have to kind of like pivot my business a little bit. So people can actually book like a private talk with me now as well via Airbnb experiences. So if you just go online, you'll find my experience on the Airbnb website. I'm now actually running them in person as well, so I host from my home, and just open to any questions people want to ask me, like face to face, and see like even more of a range of my prosthetic limbs as well. So those that I started at, those that I had, the prosthetic limbs I had when I was like 2 or 3 years old, some of the ones that I made to then go to college, all the way up to the ones that I've got to the present day as well. So that's some of the things that I keep myself busy doing.
Fantastic. You are such an inspiration. Where can people find you on their socials? Are you on any socials at all?
Yeah, David Hill _GB across most socials. davidhillgb.com is an easy website to go to as well.
Fantastic. I'm going to ask, we've got a couple of questions that's come through. I know that we're going over, so I do apologise, but it's been brilliant. This has been absolutely brilliant. So one of the questions that's come through is, what advice would you give to help people to get that belief in themselves?
Oh, good one. So I think this immediately springs to mind, to go back to this goal setting, you know, and don't underestimate the power of just setting a really small goal. And then the key here is to actually spend some time reviewing it and acknowledging and sitting with that achievement. I recently read BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits book, and that really said about habits are formed through celebration. You know, he really threw out the window the whole kind of 6 weeks repetition, day in, day out, of how a habit is formed. It's not. You can form a habit instantly as long as you've enjoyed what you've just done. You know, if I have a piece of cake and I liked it, I want another one. It doesn't take me 6 weeks to think, oh, actually, yeah, you know what, I quite like cake. And so that's really key. Just sit with that celebration, and it's figuring out how you do that. You know, whether you do that with friends, whether there's whether you journal every night, whether you do it with your dog.
I absolutely love her. And I just want to point out that I've got a Shih Tzu as well, and there's no way I would be able to hold her like that. Yeah, my Shih Tzu is not really. Brilliant. And one last question, we'll wrap it up. Sorry. 10 years back in time, what would you tell your younger self? And I guess it's quite similar, maybe, but that question you just asked.
It does. It all really ties in. Yeah, because I described about, you know, I just think how much more successful would I have been if I just believed in myself, and perhaps even, dare I say, like, communicate with those around you and that you love at the time that things happen. Like, don't bottle things up. You know, the amount of therapy that I've had to go through because I've just thought, I'm tough, I can deal with this. You know, put it in a bottle and keep shaking it and keep the lid on. No, doesn't work. Doesn't work for anybody at all. There was a phrase that just came to my mind, you know, something like, if you want to go far, go on your own. No, or I'm going to actually butcher this. but if you want to go further, go together. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Help me out, Andrew. So
Yeah,
all about teamwork.
there's a book behind me that there's a quote in there saying that it's the boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse. So the horse and the boy are in the woods, and the boy says, "I can't see where I'm going," and the horse says, "Can you see the one step in front of you?" The boy says, "Yes," and the horse says, "There you go, that's your step." So it is about taking these small steps. Don't look too far in the future. It's about these small steps. Perfect. We just had another comment saying Pebbles is absolutely gorgeous. Thanks for sharing the story, David, and have followed you on Insta. So fantastic. I will have to wrap things up because I could talk to you for hours. This has been absolutely brilliant, David. I'm just going to, if anyone still out there, oh yes, your book. Yep, you are in the Doghouse book.
I will just plug this. So this has just come through this week. So this is available to pre-order from all good bookshops. So this is the Doghouse book, which I'm really fortunate to feature in. So lots of amazing families from all three series that have aired so far with the Doghouse. So there's me and Pebbles in there. Just because this book goes into a lot more detail. It's more than I've ever shared in the public eye before, basically around the events of 2012. And it just goes, it quite rawly explains actually kind of a lot of the emotions around that time, which lead to the reason effectively of why I got Pebbles. So if you do want to know a little bit more about the story, grab a box of tissues, grab the book, and hopefully enjoy the read.
Fantastic. I loved it. Thank you so much, David. I'm just going to do a little wrap up now. So if any of you want to follow along and get in contact or with David, you can actually follow him on his socials or like and subscribe our YouTube channel once this gets published on there. There's also a handout as well if you want to see our future events. We've got other events going on in February as well. But David, thank you so much for today. I've loved talking to you, and I wish this was like an hour. Thank you so much, and thank you for everyone's listening, and take care, and don't forget to be proud of what you do and be true to yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.